Hey everyone! Today we're going to look at how to use a knitting cast on to make a Stretchy Tunisian Crochet foundation row. Okay, let's review a regular Tunisian crochet foundation row. So normally you would take the end of a string, yarn, and make a slip knot. And then you would chain. We're only going to chain a couple. Sorry, the slapping is the end of my Tunisian crochet hook. And then what you would do is work into the back ridge of each chain stitch. Right? And you'd pick that up and then you'd work into the next one. Pick that up. And then you would have your first forward row, and then you would complete your return row. So this is what we normally do in Tunisian crochet to create our foundation row. Now, let's see this knitting hack. So what we're going to do is a knitting cast on, because we're going to take our Tunisian hook and we're going to pretend it's a knitting needle. So in both cases we want loops cast on to our hook or our needle. Unlike regular crochet, we're going to have multiple loops on our tool, whether it's a hook or a needle. Instead of, in regular crochet you would only have one loop at a time on your crochet hook. So first thing we're going to do is we need to see in our pattern how many stitches we want to cast on. And what I like to do is take the end of the yarn and then wrap it around my crochet hook, the number once for every stitch. So let's say I want to do 10 stitches, then I would wrap my yarn around my needle 10 times. If I wanted 20, I would wrap it around 10 times and then double the tail. So let's say in this case I want to do, let's say I want to do 10, but I'm going to wrap, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to release it. So this is the tail I need for 5 stitches, and then I'm going to double it for 10 stitches. And then if I want to use the stretchy cast on, I'm going to give myself a little bit more room on top of that to give myself a bit of a margin, because in order to make a stretchy cast on, it's going to require a little bit more yarn. All right, so this would be what I would use for a cast on of 10 stitches. Again, if you want to do 8, 16, whatever, just pick a multiple so you're not trying to wrap more than 10 stitches on your crochet hook, and then you can just multiply it out for however many stitches you need. Okay, so I'm going to just start here as my example, and then we're going to start the fun part. So I'm going to hold my yarn. This is the tail, and the tail is going to be closer to me, and then the active yarn is going to be further away from me. Okay, and then I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to grab it, and then it's kind of like cat's cradle, where you take your thumb and your forefinger and you kind of prop it open. So again, this side is the beginning yarn tail, and then this side is the active yarn, and you have this triangle here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put our hook here, and if we pull it down, I just want to show you, you're going to end up getting a loop or a hole here on your thumb, and then you're going to get one on this side as well on your forefinger side. Okay, so remember that you have these two, because that's what we're going to be working into. Make sure it's nice and tight. You're going to take your crochet hook, you're going to bounce it, bounce, and you're going to twist. I like this method more than using a slip stitch, because then I don't end up with a knot at the bottom of my work. Okay, so let me do that again. You're going to bounce, and then you're going to flip it. So now you have, this is the first stitch If you need 10, you only need to cast on 9 more because you already have one in place. Okay, so this is the German twisted cast on in knitting, but we're going to be using it for Tunisian crochet. You're going to take your crochet hook, you're going to swing it under, touch the fleshy part of your thumb, you're going to swing it under the entire loop of your thumb, okay? Then you're going to go into this loop. Remember we said there is this hole here? Into this loop, swing it back around through the loop by your forefinger, and then you're going to go under and through this loop again. Then you're going to release everything, you're going to tighten. You don't have to tighten too much, you want a little bit of a give. I know this is going to be stretchy, but you don't want to have your tension too tight. Okay, we're going to do this several more times from different angles so you can see how it looks. Okay, one more time, you're going to take, this is the yarn tail, it's going to be closest to you. This is the active yarn, it's going to be further away from you. Take it, take a cat's cradle stance and prop it open. All right, so you can see where I had mentioned before, here is the loop for the thumb, here is the loop for the forefinger. We're going to go under, and then through this loop around the thumb. Then you're going to go all the way around and through the loop by the forefinger. And then you're going to go under. You're going to go through the loop, but underneath. Okay, so let's do that again. Let me make sure I did it right. Okay, under, through the thumb loop, around and through the finger loop, and under the thumb loop again. Okay, so one more time. Around the whole thing, through the thumb loop, around to the finger loop, and then underneath the thumb loop. And then you can just release and pull tight. So some people, I'm going to show you, this doesn't change anything, it's just the angle and how you do it. You go underneath, through the thumb, through the forefinger, and then some people like to twist their thumb. So instead of going, what I do is I go under, but some people like to just, whoops, here, let me show you again. Around. So at this point, some people like to twist their thumb, and then you can see that there's big gaping hole, and that's where you put the needle, the hook, sorry. So again, once you come around the finger side, the forefinger side, you can either move your crochet hook to go under, or what you can do is just twist your thumb and then your crochet hook goes right through that hole. Either way works. It's the same action. Okay, so let me show you a different angle. This is what I would see if I were working it. So I would go underneath, so touch the fleshy part of your thumb and go underneath, through that hole by the thumb, around by the forefinger, and then here what I do is I move the hook again through the fleshy part of the thumb and then underneath, coming up through that hole from the bottom. And then I release everything and then pull tight. So my left hand doesn't really do anything. It's just holding the string taut. Not the string, the yarn. It's holding the yarn taut. Okay, one last time. So you have the beginning yarn, you have the active yarn, touch the fleshy part of your thumb, around, through the hole, around to the forefinger, and then come through the hole again, but from underneath. Let go, and then pull tight. It takes a little bit of practice. All right, so now you have, so I made mine pretty tight because it's difficult to watch my tension while on video. So mine are pretty tight, but you can see I have all these stitches on my needle, and this would be where I am after picking up all of those back loops of the chains. I find this a lot more helpful, a lot easier, and it also goes faster because once you get the hang of the cast on, it goes pretty quickly. And if you miscounted, you don't have to rip apart your entire chain and start over. You can just remove one, right? So you can remove however many you don't need. You don't have to rip apart the chain and start everything over. I think the chain part is the most tedious part of Tunisian crochet, so having this hack really helps a lot. Now, once you have all of these stitches on your Tunisian hook, you can work a regular return row. So this is our tail, and if you counted right at the beginning and you wrapped the stitches right, you should have a decent tail without having it be too long or too short. Now take the active yarn, and then you're going to do that chain 1, and then you're just going to work a return row. And this is why I don't like to make my cast on stitches too tight, because then this first return row is a little bit more difficult. Oops, 2. So you pick up 2 stitches every time. Okay, and then here's the last stitch. And you can see a lot of times I make my chains very tight and then my return row is looser, so then I get this curling because the beginning chain was too tight. But in this case, it really stretches out. So you can see this is our very stretchy, very flexible Tunisian foundation row. And then from here, you can just work into it, whether you're working the Tunisian simple stitch or whether you're working the Tunisian knit stitch, whichever one you want, you can work from here. And this is a really good foundation for whatever project you're doing. I hope this tutorial comes in handy for you in your next Tunisian crochet project. And I'd love it if you could like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.